Hello and welcome to St John's Killingworth, up here in Northumberland. Today we're going to take a little tour around this, the postal organ. We're not quite sure when the organ was built, probably about 150 years ago in the mid-1870s. We're not really sure, we don't have a date anywhere. However, that's an educated guess. And yeah, we're just going to show our way around it. It's beginning to show its age at 150, and I think it's allowed to. So we're going to try and raise a wee bit of money to basically put it back to how it should sound and how it sounded in the 1870s and 1880s when it was brand new. And it's a lovely example of organ building from that time. So we're just going to take a little wander round each of the stops. Well, I say a wander round. I want you to think of these stops as colours on a painter's palette. And I want you to think of me as painting a nice picture of the organ. And perhaps if you are a painter, you would like to do so. Certainly be better than mine. I make Picasso look, well, yes, I'm not really a painter, but yes, so we're going to have a little paint of the colours, and we're going to start with what I call the string colours of the organ. And we're going to start down here on the grate with one of my favourite stops ever. It's called the Dulciana, and it's a string. It's designed to emulate the strings of the orchestra, and it's the quietest stop on the organ. And it's down here on the grate division, the division at the front of the organ, the loudest division, has the quietest stop. And up here on the swell, and it's called that because all the pipes are kept at the back of this organ in a box that I control with my right foot over here. And that allows the sound to swell out. And we have a very similar stop up on the swell. We have the Celeste. And you might think it sounds much the same as the Dulciana. And you'd be right, but it's tuned ever so slightly sharp. So when I pull out this stop here, which is called swell to grate, which adds a little mechanical link in the back that pulls the swell keys down on the grate manual. So I play down here and up here plays, and you'll see the keys going down. You hear that warm, undulating sound, which is caused by having the Celeste tuned just ever so slightly sharp. And it gives that lovely stringy sound of a full string section where they're not quite all on exactly the same note because, you know, everyone's finger is just minuscule bits of a millimetre in difference, but it gives that lovely warm sound that perhaps we associate with wandering around a great cathedral. The other string stop we have up on the swell is supposed to emulate a voix de gamba, which is a sort of precursor to the violin in some ways, a precursor to the viola perhaps, would be a better analogy. And it's a lovely strident string sound. And you can almost hear the bow on the strings, and it works really well if you play with the Dulciana down here and the voix de gamba up here. That lovely string solo. That's the string section of the organ. They're perfect for when you need a quiet moment, or when you need to do a bit of accompanying, as the string section in the orchestra does. That's the strings. Moving on from the strings, we have the flutes. And these, as you can imagine, sound like flutes. And here we have what's called an open flute. It's a block of wood with a hole down the middle, and we call it the 8-foot flute, or because, don't know how well you can hear that, but the biggest pipe in this rank, we call each set of pipes a rank, the biggest pipe is 8 feet long, which is much taller than me. 8 foot long, and we have quite a few pipes at this length. It's a nice big long length. Nice big solid sound, and you'll find that most pipes on the organ are 8 foot, and I'll reference that as we go through. So we have the 8-foot open flute, the clarabella. Just a box of wood cut to the relevant length. Now if you chop it in half, we get the walled flute, or the Waldflöte, if you want to say it in German. And this is half the length, so if you know your physics, half the length, an octave higher. And again, it's an open flute. And makes a rather joyful noise. And if you add the two together, so if we imagine this as being your primary colours, red and blue, well, here we have some green. And that's the great flutes. Up on the swell we have something very interesting. So I said that the great flute was 8 foot long. Well, another trick of physics is if you stick a stopper in the end of it, you can trick a 4 foot long pipe into thinking it's 8 foot because the sound goes up and comes back down again. So we have what's called a stopped diapason, which is the same idea as the clarabella, only it's got a stopper in the end. And this is a nice woolly wooden flute that we have up on the swell. Again, 8 foot pitch. We also have, down in the pedals, we have a bit of a problem here. Down in the feet, in the pedals, we have a 16-foot flute. Now, I say 16 foot, it's only 8 foot tall, but it's got the stopper in the end, so the sound thinks it's 16 foot long. And I say there's a bit of a problem. If I pull the stop out, and if I hold my feet up, you'll see what the problem is. I'm not doing anything, it is. So that's one of the things that needs righted. We're not quite sure what the issue is, but we hope to fix that. So we have that's supposed to provide me with some nice growly basses, but we don't have that anymore. Or at least we don't for now. We now move on to the part of the organ that is designed to imitate absolutely nothing. It is the organ sound, and if you look above my head, you will see what these pipes look like. They are the diapasons. They are essentially metal recorders, and they sound like an organ. And that is the open diapason, so it doesn't have a stopper in, it's just a clear sound right the way through. And it's up on the swell. And the reason I've started with the swell diapason is that this is a good chance to explain why it's called the swell. If I move my trigger over here and go click and that, then I shut an enormous set of Venetian blinds in the back of the organ. And all of the pipes for this keyboard, all of these stops are kept in a massive box with these big Venetian blinds on the front. And I have a control over here at my right foot that is directly connected to them, and when I lift the control up, the Venetian blinds shut, because move the lever up there, then physics. Physics was one of the few subjects I failed at school. Actually, sciences were the subjects I failed at school. So, box closes, and the sound gets shut in a little room. And then when I press the lever over here, the sound swells lines open up. So that's the diapason on the swell. And we have that at 8 foot, and we have it at 4 foot. Which is rather wonderful. We have the swell principle, because that's what when you're tuning the organ, you tune the principle first, and then you tune everything to it. So this is tuned from the 4 foot. That is the principles on the swell. Moving down to the grate, we have something very exciting. So, on the front of the organ, you will see some silver pipes. These are the great open diapason. That one, which is 8 foot long, is directly above my head, and I can hear it. And then, and it just moves to a series of pipes that are straight in behind there for the 8 foot open diapason. We then have it right next to it at 4 foot, the 4 foot principle. And we also, way up here, have it at 2 foot. So we have 8 foot, we've got piano pitch, we have an octave higher than that, and then 2 octaves higher still. Glorious uplifting sound. And if we want to make it a bit richer, we have a stop here called a 12th. It's called that because it plays 12 notes higher than the key I'm playing. So if I play a C, going up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 notes, you get a G, and that's precisely what the 12th does. And if you put the two of them together, it sounds a bit odd. But you don't really hear the G at all. But that works really well if you want to play a solo line against something. Works if you add in the 4 foot and the 2 foot and the 12th, you get that nice, rich, churchy sound. Which is caused by having that slightly odd note in the mix. That's the 12th. Now we have something very exciting. It's called the reed stop. So most of these that we've covered so far have been flue stops, which means that they've been essentially recorders with them made out of different materials. So they've been wood, they've been metal, but you've blown air up the end and it's travelled down a length of tube, having been directed onto the top lip and made a bit of a vibration along the way. Whereas what we're going to have a look at now are the 2 reeds, the 2 stops in the organ that are meant to imitate woodwind or brass instruments. And woodwind is perhaps the best example because they have, by and large, reeds that vibrate. So when you press a key with a reed stop, the air is directed over a little piece of metal held in a case, and the metal vibrates. And that vibration is amplified by the top of the pipe, and you get the most, depending on the shape of the top of the pipe and what it's made from, you get the most amazing sound. So this first one here is labelled in French, it's the hautbois, in English, the oboe. And this is where the swell box is really useful. Because if I shut the swell box, and if I pull out swell to grate, and I put out 8 and 4 diapasons, then that becomes a nice little colour. That I can add in to the sound, and I can also use it quite effectively. If I pull out a flute on the grate, put in swell to grate, and open the swell box, it's a lovely quiet sound on its own. We then have what I like to call Mr. Squawky, the horn. And this is, forget your French horns or something delicate. This is, to quote the great Carlo Curley, the organ can whisper, it can proclaim, and it can part hairs at 50 paces. And this is one of these part hairs at 50 paces. Nice, noisy sound. And you can use it on its own to do that kind of, that trumpety voluntary type thing, or you can blend it, as with others, to get what here we would call full organ. So I've spoken about swell to grate quite a bit. And that is the mechanical linkage that puts the swell on the grate. It connects them together. I have two more like that. I have swell to pedal and grate to pedal. And swell to pedal, it's a bit stiff, and we hope to get that fixed. It does exactly what it says on the tin. It links the swell down to the pedals that I have on with my feet on just above the floor. With the horn, and you can see the keys going down. And I can do the same with the grate. I can pull down the keys of the grate with the pedals. So that is swell to grate and grate to pedal. Before I move on to anything else, I suddenly remembered that there are a couple of things that I didn't talk about, which are these three irons here and this over here. So this is the pedal board of the organ. This is what I control the stops of. This is what I control the base of the organ with, but these help me control the stops for the grate. So if I push this one down, I'm hoping that you can hammer it up there. If I push this one down, then you'll see some stops fly out. There's the Clarabella flute and the Dulciana. If I push this one, we get some more. And if I push this, even more. So it helps me to change my stops quickly while I'm going through a piece. The other thing that I have to show you with the pedal cam down here is this over here. This is how we control the swell box. It's called a trigger swell. Because you've got to kick this post out of the way, and you can see it's seen better days, and then that goes up and down, and when it's down the box is open, so you can hear, there's the open diapason,